Well, good morning, my friends. We're here today for another episode in the Hardanger Book of Knowledge. So today we're going to do a lacy edge. A lot of people have asked for this, so I thought I'd do this one next. And as the Book of Knowledge progresses, we'll get into more of the different stitches. So I am hoping to make this an every Friday update so that each Friday you can look for a new episode and a new stitch. So as I said, today it's the lacy edge. So let's get started. Okay, I am going to just use this triangle. I'm sorry, diamond. Anyway, as our, to symbolize the doily or runner or whatever piece you have made that you want to do a lacy edge on. And the first thing we're going to have to do is cut so that we can pull threads on the outside here, because that's where our lacy edge is going to be. So this time I'm not going to cut here in the center. This is no. We're not cutting here. We're going to cut on the outside of the blocks. So if you remember, when you're cutting, you think of each cluster block as baby's toes, so that when you cut, you're trimming their toenails, which should tell you which side of the block we're going to cut on. So I'm going to just show you here, and then I'm going to show you the block with the threads pulled. Okay, so you're going to cut here. You're going to cut this corner. You're going to cut here. Here, and you're going to repeat those cuts on all four sides of the shape or around the whole perimeter of whatever piece it is that you're putting a lacy edge on. Then what you're going to do is, well, let me just show you a little bit. Let me cut one. Now remember, if you're using a hoop to do your, let's give you a little more light here. Aha, there we go. Oh, that's too bright. Hold on. There we go. That's better. If you're using a hoop, you don't want to do your cutting with the piece in a hoop. You want to cut before you put it back into a hoop. So let me show you just how to do that cutting and pull the thread on the outside. So I'm going to cut here and come up here. So if you remember, I hope my head's not in the camera here. I don't want to catch that end of that pearl there. We're going to get 4 threads on our scissors, and we're going to snip. Okay, now again, you would do this all the way around, but I just want to show you the process of how you get to the next stage. So you would cut. Now, because we don't have any matching blocks on this outer edge, we do want to pull threads, but this is how I do it. I start here and I pull this, just flip it with my needle. Okay. And I want to pull relatively far away. How far you remove a thread is dependent upon how many rows you want in your lacy edge. Okay. So let me just pull these 4 threads back to this point, and we'll show you. Now, the process will be the same for every set of 4 that you are removing all the way around. Now once you have that first one out, the rest come out pretty easy. Okay, so say I just want one row of wraps and then my lacy edge row. Okay, so what we know is this. We know these 4 threads here are going to be cut and removed. Okay, these 4 threads are going to stay. So this is our first travel around. Okay, so this would be one layer of our lacy edge. The next 4 threads are going to be cut. So what I'm saying is every other set of 4 threads moving away from your piece are going to be cut and removed. So then it will leave us 4 threads here. That is going to be, if I only do one row of wraps around my piece, the next row around will be the lacy edge. So this row will stay. So in order to give us a little more working room, I'm going to pull these out just a little bit further, just to give us extra room to play with. And sometimes it wants to pull the other way. There you go. Okay, and then I'm going to gather up these 4 and I'm going to trim them off. Okay, so I can at this point go back and cut every other set of 4 starting with this set here. Okay, so how far you go out pulling a thread is you want to go past the number of wraps and the edge. So if you want just one row of wraps, then you would just pull enough for one row and a lacy edge. If you want 5 rows of wraps and a lacy edge, of course this would have to be a lot longer. So let me just cut this for you here. So what I'm going to do is cut these first 4. Okay. I'm going to leave 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to cut 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And before I actually cut them, I'm going to just double check. I have 4 cut, 4 left, 4 cut, 4, 2, 3, 4 remaining. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to cut these and make sure there's 4 in between. Okay. And then, of course, I would do the same thing and pull those cut threads in this direction. Okay. And I'd work my way around the whole piece until it looks like this. Okay. I have a little piece of something in here. It was late last night when I did this. There we go. Okay. So it will look like this when you're all done with your cutting. Okay. So you see how your threads were. Let me zoom in. There we go. I'll put some dark underneath here so you can see it a little bit better. That helps a little bit. But you see what I mean. You're cutting every other set of 4 so that you end up with like it would look on the ins. If you would have cut in here, it looks like that out here. Okay? So now we're ready to start wrapping. Again, if you have questions getting to this point, leave me a note in the comments or send me an email. That's always in my email is always in the Dropbox, and I will gladly answer any of your questions. But what we're going to do is we're going from this, and we started, I just cut 1 here. So again, you would cut all the way around here, 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 here. You're cutting the toes, remember? Always cut at the baby's toes. Here, here, here. And feel free to pause this video so that you can see exactly where things are happening. And then when you have these cut, of course, this is where you would start pulling this way. Okay, so that opens up. You pull this direction both ways so that you end up with this. All right. So now our next step is we get to start wrapping. And wrapping these are the same way as you wrapped on the previous videos, previous set of videos that I did, where you're wrapping inside. This time we're just going to be wrapping out here. So you can do this. I should have switched my needles, but that's okay. All right. So you can do this one of 2 ways to start your thread, just as I showed you before. You can either anchor in the cluster blocks on the back, and for this first set, I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go under. I'm going to go under the second one. I'm going to go over the first thread, under the rest, and again, over the first thread, under the rest. And let's see, let's start on this side over here, because that's my comfortable direction. If you're left-handed, you might want to start on the other one. So I am going to come up in between my 2 in the center here. Okay, I'm going to turn it this way because this is how I like to wrap, and I'm going to do my over-unders. Oh, I got to go the right way first. Would that not help? You'd think I never did this before, right? So we're going to go like this. Now, remember, if you so desire, and of course you don't have to, but you could decorate your lacy edge. And by the way, I failed to mention this, and I will mention it here. This is size 28 cachille linen that I've used for this model. So the cluster blocks are done with size 8 pearl cotton. The wraps are done in size 12 pearl cotton. Okay. So this, you can do this exactly the same way as I showed you in the previous 2 episodes in the Book of Knowledge. You could wrap them plain, just like I'm going to do now, or you could add picots and or dove's eyes. And you would, now if you were adding a picot, you would have to decide which side of the block you wanted it on. And you'd wrap it when you were halfway filling your bar. I think for the purposes today, we're just going to do them as a plain wrap. Okay. And I think, again, remember, you don't want to overwrap, but you don't want to underwrap either. And it's just a matter of eyeballing. Normally normally you don't go into that block. Hold on, back it up here. Okay, I think that's enough. So what I should have done is come up over here. I'm going to turn my work. All right, and I'm going to wrap this one. And I always like to be wrapping. Actually, I'm going to turn it this way because I always like to be wrapping right to left when I'm doing the bars. It's a comfort thing for me. And most right-handed people, that's what they're going to prefer, because as you see, when I'm pulling to the right. So that has my thread laying side by side, not bunching up on each other, and not being pulled in the opposite direction. So a left-handed person, you want to do this just the opposite of what I'm doing. Right-handed people, most of the time, prefer this direction. And we're just going to continue going all the way around. Okay? Just as we would before. Now, before you're going to ask me, what do you do when you run out of thread? And when I get to the run out of thread part, I'm going to show you that. Okay, so now we have 2 wrapped. Now we're going to flip it this way. This hoop is a little bit big for me, but it's the one I had to use to show the whole 9 yards here. So you could use a smaller hoop. Now, I'm sorry for the jiggling. I could put this in my stand, but then I'd have to be taking it out and moving it like all the time. You could use a smaller hoop. However, you want the hoop to be no bigger than the size of your hand. Okay, because then if it's too big like this one is, you have a hard time getting behind the place that you're stitching. You see how this one is far bigger than what I would like it to be, because I'm having a hard time reaching over here. So that's the reason for that. You also, when you're doing this, don't want the fabric in your hoop really tight. You just want it that it has some play in it. See, I can bounce it. You can see it's just loosely in here. When I'm wrapping, I don't like it tight. The other thing is, you don't want to hoop the plastic hoops that have that little lip on them for holding things tight, because that's going to distort. It's going to distort the fabric while you're trying to wrap it, and you want to keep things as even and as possible. And you have to be careful because you don't want those ridges showing in your in any of your wraps or those types of things. So we're just going to continue working our way around. Now, I will tell you, this video may get a little long. Just because it takes a long time to wrap. Okay, but we're just going to continue. So I will probably end up recording most of this, but I will cut out parts, or else I will stop and then splice them together so that I can shorten this up a little bit for you, and then you can just pause where you need to see exactly what it is that you need to be doing, because I don't know that you want to sit here and really watch me wrap bars all the way around this. So here again, I'm at a spot where it's a little hard to reach what I need to reach. So let me wrap until I get to a point where I have to add a new thread, and then I will come back and show you how to do that. Okay, so it will probably only be a minute, or it'll probably be no time at all for you folks, but it'll be a little while for me. So I will be back when it's time to add a new thread. Okay, my friends, we are back, and I am going to show you how to add a new thread. Now, this is probably a little longer than I would have left it to add this thread, but this is a good place to show you how to do it. So this is my current working thread, and I have it laid up here out of the way at the moment, and I'm going to take a new working thread. Okay, and if you remember I can't remember which one it was, either the Dove's Eye or the Picot video, I showed you about how to start a thread if you weren't near your cluster blocks. Well, we're going to do this one exactly the same way. So I'm going to go down the center here, and I'm going to pull my thread through, and just temporarily I'm going to come up in the center of this block. But essentially what I'm going to do is leave a little tail and work this thread as part of the wrap. Okay, and I've just anchored it there so I have a place to hold it. All right, so I'll just move this, that it's out of the way and not going to get caught up, and I'm going to continue wrapping this particular bar. And all the time I'm wrapping, I'm catching that extra thread, or that new thread, I should say. Okay, so wrapping, and hope you don't get a little, well, how did I do that? Get a little bit of a twisted knot there. hold on. Let me undo this. See, it does happen. Now, if I would have wanted to do a picot, I would. That wouldn't have happened. Okay, let's get these separated here. Which one is which here? This one we went out of the way. This is our working one. Okay. Back to the grind here. Okay. All right. So again, we're just going to keep wrapping this bar. And we're going to be catching that new thread underneath. Get that tail out. Okay. And again, you want to wrap your bars so that they're full, but not over full. And you'll be able to tell. Okay. So this one, I'm going to come up here. And I'm going to unthread my needle by accident. As you see, I did switch to a smaller hoop so that I could manage this a bit better. So I'm going to turn my work again so that I'm always working right to left. Move this out of the way for a second. I'm going to go back down in that hole and I'm going to come up over in this bar. Okay. So now I can put that out of the way over here and hold it out of the way with my thumb, and I can continue again catching that thread as I wrap this bar. So what I'm doing is including it in the wrap. Here we go. Okay. So we're just including it in this wrap. Okay, and once I show you this, I don't think I'm going to go completely all the way around, but we'll have enough wrapped to show you how to do the actual second round, which will be the actual edge with the buttonhole stitch in the corners. And you know what? And that's the reason I really like to do a lacy edge, because when it comes to cutting out your piece, really all you have to trim is these are these threads that are around the buttonhole stitch, because everything else is cut. I really, really like this edge. So, okay, now we have our new working thread wrapped into 2 bars. The first one, the second one. So now we need to get rid of this one and start using this one. So this one's going to go away. This one we're going to wrap with. Okay. New thread we're going to wrap with. Old thread is going to go away. So with this, we do the same thing. We're going to come up. Okay, I got to go down here. I'm going to come up just as a placeholder into this square somewhere, just because it's easy. That's easier for me to hold it out of the way. So I'm just going to pull this a little bit tighter because it's getting a little wobbly loose. Like I said, you don't want it over tight, but you want it to give you enough support too. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my new thread. This is the long one. And I'm going to hold this one out of the way, but behind the bars, and I'm going to start wrapping with this thread. Now, one wrap bar with the thread behind is probably enough to hold it, but just as an extra precaution, it's probably best to wrap two with it behind, just to ensure that it's not going to come undone in the future. I mean, because seriously, I don't, but there are people that will wash their Hardanger pieces in the wash machine. I mean, they probably put them in like a lingerie bag or a pillowcase or something and put them through on a gentle cycle. For myself, I personally prefer to wash them by hand, just because I'm afraid. Okay, so I'm going to turn so that again I'm wrapping right to left. I'm going to go back down through this hole with this old thread. And this time I'm not going to come up anywhere. I'm just going to lay it across the back and hold it with my finger across the back so that I can wrap it into the bar. I mean, and you could do the same thing as I did over here. You could come up and then just snip it off. Okay. Okay, so then I'll just continue wrapping this bar, and then you can just merrily, it's a rainy day today and my thumb's giving me a little bit of trouble, but that's okay. We're gonna get there. Okay. Alrighty, so that is how you change or add a new thread. And then this would just continue to come this way. I would flip this over and I would make sure it's the old thread. Don't clip the new one. And I just clip this one off close. Okay, so that's the end of that. Now, you can go back and I usually pull this up as hard as I can so that I can get as close as I can. And by pulling it up tight, what happens then is when the fabric relaxes, that little nub of an end goes back to the back. So now let's look at, because I have enough done here that I can show you how to do this next round. Okay. So I'm just going to take this thread, and I'm not going to cut it off, but I am going to kind of wrap it around over here and keep it out of the way. So now we want to do the next row. After you have gone all the way around, you're going to end up with this bar, and you can end your thread by going back under your cluster blocks. But now we want to go out to this second row and go all the way around with the second row, and that's going to be the final edge row. So as I said, depending on the depth of the edge that you want to put on your piece, you would continue out however many rows. Maybe you want just one, maybe you want 3, maybe you want 5. You would just continue your wraps around until you had the depth that you want, and then you would do this final edging row. So let's just show you how to do that. It really is easy peasy, lemon squeezy. That edge, again, as in a lot of Hardanger, things look like they look so delicate. They look so pretty. They look like, oh my God, that must be so hard. I can't do that. I can't possibly do that. And in the long run, they are so basically easy. They're not hard at all. It's just the sequence that you do them, and how it's all put together, and it's a combination of easy things put together to make something absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to start our thread here the same way as we started a thread on previous video where we did not have blocks to anchor it. So I'm going to go down out here in this block, and I'm going to come up over here, or I'm going to come up, over here. And I'm going to leave that tail, remember? And I'm going to turn my work so that, again, I'm working right to left. And I'm just going to hope that thread stays out of the way. And I'm just going to start wrapping my bar, and keeping that thread so that it's getting incorporated in that wrap. Okay, so this first bar is just going to be a wrap. Now again, you can on this row also incorporate any other stitch that you like. You could put picots on this. You could put, now I would remember, you could put a picot on this side because this is your outside edge, because everything past here is going to get cut away. Okay, if you want a dove's eye, it would have to go in here, because that block is going to remain because we're going to close it on all four sides. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But you could put a filling stitch in either one of these blocks if you so desire. Okay, and as I said, we're going to wrap this again till it's full, but you don't want it over full. Okay, so now I have to think here a second. I haven't done this for a while, so I have to think here for a second. And let me just double check my notes. Okay, so now, well, first of all, we want to get rid of that. So let's stick this up here out of the way. Let's cut this little, and pardon my shaking, this is old lady hands. Okay, we're going to cut that out of the way. Now we're going to begin by, we're going to do a buttonhole stitch. Okay, so I'm going to lay my thread up like this. And what I'm going to do is work my buttonhole. Let me zoom you in a little more. let me stand. Got us. Oh, that must be as far as I can zoom you. Okay. All right. Hopefully you can see this okay. All right. So I'm going to hold it this way. I'm going to stay in the center, but I'm going to come up between these two threads, and I'm going to go on top of my working thread, and I'm going to pull. Okay. Buttonhole number 1. I'm going to go back down in the center. I'm going to come up between the next two, be on top of my working thread, buttonhole number 2. Again, down in the center, up between 3 and 4, on top of my working thread, pull it through, buttonhole number 3. Come here in this open spot, come here between the two threads, and I'm just working my way around this corner. Going in between each of the threads. Okay, I'm at this one. In between each of the threads, in here, and now I'm going to go back and wrap. Till I get over to this other side. And like I said, when you're at the point where it's your elegant sufficiency of being totally wrapped, okay, I'm going to go here. I actually did that wrong on the first one. That first buttonhole stitch is actually on your bar yet. Okay, so I'm not between any threads. I'm on the wrapped bar. Okay, and I'm going to pull my first buttonhole stitch. That's one. It just gives it a cleaner, see here it's a little, could be tighter. It just gives it a cleaner, tighter. And now I'm going to go to three. I'm going between each thread. 4. 5 is in the opening, and then work around the next side. 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so see, and you can actually pull these pretty tight. This one I did a little loose, but you really want to pull them tight like that. So now we're going to, I'm going to go in here, and then I'm going to continue. Here we go. Got to find my 2. Pull them tight, and you find your 2 so that you're over and under 2. Okay, and keep wrapping this bar. I'm going the wrong direction. No wonder it feels wrong. Okay, here we go. There we go. Trying to stay in the frame here. I don't want to jiggle yous around terribly. Okay, you're going to keep wrapping. Keep wrapping. And if you need to make any little adjustments, you do that. Keep wrapping. And the inside corner is the same way as when you wrap the previous row. You're just going to, oh, here comes my mail. You're just going to, I don't know why my hands are so shaky today. I apologize, guys. Okay. All right. So we're going to do one more corner. All right, so we're going to wrap across this bar. Yeah, this is going to be a rather long video, my friends, but I hope you're getting the idea of how you do this lacy edge. Okay, but let's give you another good, nice corner here. I'm going to wrap this one yet. I'm going to come back to this side. Okay, now I'm going to turn it this way so I can do my corner. I'm going to lay my thread up here. I'm going to go under here, come up on top of my working thread, and I'm going to pull it. I'm going to go between the first 2 threads, between 1 and 2, on top of the working thread, and pull it. Between 2 and 3, on top of the working thread, and pull it. Between 3 and 4, on top of the working thread, and pull it. Into the hole, open space, on top of the working thread, and pull it. Turn it a little bit. Between 1 and 2, on top of the working thread, and pull. Between 2 and 3, on top of the working thread, and pull. Between 3 and 4, on top of the working thread, and pull. And then the last one in the bar, on top of the working thread, and pull. And then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm just going to keep wrapping this bar. Okay, my friends, and that is how you do a lacy edge. Okay, you would keep wrapping, you would keep working this way all the way around. Wrap, this one you would wrap. Here you would do your lace, your buttonhole stitches. Wrap, wrap, buttonhole stitches. Wrap, wrap, buttonhole stitches. Wrap, buttonhole stitches, because you're reversing directions. And you would just keep working your whole way around. And that is how you do a lacy edge. Now, when you're ready and you're all done, all you need to do is to cut this out and get rid of your excess fabric, is trim these threads. So you would cut here, you would cut here, you would cut here, you would cut here, you would cut here. And that's exactly why I prefer and I enjoy doing a lacy edge, because when it comes to cutting it out, it's just a matter of cutting these threads away and you're done. It's not like when you're cutting around a traditional buttonhole stitch where you have to cut along here, cut around the corner, cut into the corner from both directions, making sure you're not clipping any of these threads. This is just so easy. It may be a little more work in the fact that you have to do your cutting and pulling threads ahead of time. You have to do an extra row of wraps. Actually, you could just do this particular finish right here and not have any more. You could just make your lacy edge right along in this first row if that's what you wish to do. It certainly is an option. But that, my friends, is a lacy edge. As always, if you have any questions, either shoot me an email or either send me an email or leave a message in the comment. I will get back to you. Hopefully this explains it and you found it helpful. And with that, I'm going to say I will see you next time. Next week, it will probably be one of the surface stitches like ships or stars or both. So until then, take care, have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.